What do the Dodgers absolutely have to get right this weekend against the Toronto Blue Jays? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. My name is Travis Rogers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at that name, at Travis Rogers. Rogers spelled exactly like Dodgers. In today's episode of Locked On Dodgers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. You can also find me when I'm not hosting Locked On Dodgers, when I am hosting Locked On Rams with my pal Doug McCain. I also host a daily radio show here in Los Angeles, the Travis and DeMarco Show, heard each day on ESPN 710 AM, where we talk about everything. A lot of Dodgers there too, so make sure that you check that out. Harry Ruiz, my co-host, my good buddy, he is doing his Raider job today. He, of course, is the Spanish language voice of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Harry will be back with us on Monday. Until then, we're going to get into all things Dodgers, just you and me. Sorry about that. Harry will be back before too long, but it should be a great weekend of Dodger baseball, an incredibly important weekend of Dodger baseball. And let's just jump right into this. And before we do it, let me just say a quick thank you to everybody for making this your first listen every single day. Of course, Locked On free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure that you sign up to subscribe so you can become an everydayer. Make sure that you check us out on our YouTube channel as well, because who would not want to look at my face while you are listening about Dodger baseball? So make sure that you got that squared away as well, and you will never miss a single moment of your favorite team. And this is a big weekend for the Dodgers. We're going to talk about what they have to get right against this series, against the first place Toronto Blue Jays. My level of concern, my emotional state, right? The Dodgers, obviously, for a lot of us are an emotional endeavor. My emotional state has gone from mild frustration at their inability to get their act together to a level of concern. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit, and just how important these next 2 weeks for the Dodgers are, because this was supposed to be when they take off, and that has not happened at all. So all of that coming up. But let's get into what is happening this weekend at Dodger Stadium. Of course, they are hosting the American League East division leader, the Toronto Blue Jays. It should be a great series. It is an incredible pitching weekend. We're getting, of course, on Friday night, the Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer part, however many times that they've squared against each other. I'm sure that you have seen it by now, but if you haven't, allow me just to reset this. This matchup, of course, brings up some very fond memories of one of the earliest starts of Clayton Kershaw's career, one of the earlier starts of Max Scherzer's career as well, going back a million years ago when these first guys were just getting going. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, were scheduled to play against each other at Dodger Stadium. The starting pitchers that were scheduled to throw that day were Greg Maddux for the Dodgers and Randy Johnson for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Two Hall of Famers going at it. Neither of them were able to post that day. Neither of them were able to take the ball. And in a, quasi-emergency setting, the two pitchers that stepped in, Clayton Kershaw took the ball for the Dodgers. I don't want to say an unknown, but certainly a very fresh-faced Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, and of course for the Arizona Diamondbacks, a very young and inexperienced Max Scherzer pitching for Arizona. So two Hall of Famers stepped aside, two Hall of Famers step right back in, and we're going to get to see it again at Dodger Stadium on Friday night. Of course, Max Scherzer briefly here in LA a few years ago. So that obviously is the first matchup. You got Blake Snell and Chris Bassett going on Saturday, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Eric Lauer going on Sunday. Those Dodgers are throwing three heavyweights. The Toronto Blue Jays are throwing three heavyweights, three guys that have been very, very good this year. That's why I think this is a very good opportunity for the Dodgers to show exactly what sort of baseball team they are. And let's start with this. This is what I really would love to see from this team heading into this weekend. Can we have a series, a full series, not one night, not 2 nights, but 3 nights of clean major league caliber baseball. And I'm not talking about a ball that takes a hop, that hits a heel of a glove, that squirts through the infield. I'm not talking about a throw across the diamond that pulls the first baseman off the bag. Those are physical errors that are going to happen periodically. Hopefully not a ton, but they're unavoidable. Every major league team makes errors. That's fine. What I'm talking about are the sorts of errors that are focus based, that are situational based, that are awareness based, that are, level of intensity based. And let me kind of run you through some of these things, because I think this is important, not just for this weekend, but I think it's important for what's coming up over the course of, what do we got left here? We got 3.5 weeks in August. You got 4.5 weeks. So we got about 8 weeks left of the regular season. And this is something that the Dodgers have struggled with. Can we throw to the correct base? As simple as that is. And look, when we get into the summer months, or I should say the winter months, I got my football brain on here for a second. When we get into the winter months and there are no games being played and we're talking about transactions and all this stuff, I'm going to take a day or two to get on my soapbox and talk about how people have forgotten how to play baseball as opposed to why they've tried to solve baseball. And we'll get into that another time, but it relates to this. Let's throw to the right base. Let's make sure that we're keeping double plays in order. Let's making sure that we don't allow runners to move into scoring position when it's unnecessary. Let's make sure that if we're going to make a play at a bag, that there's an opportunity to collect an out. And I'll use an example from the game we saw the other day against St. Louis. The Dodgers have the lead. There's a couple of runners on. A ball gets hit into left field for a base hit. The tying run comes in. Andy Pajes makes a throw to third base to try to get the runner going first to third, unsuccessfully. So far, so good. Everything's fine where it's supposed to be. But this is when an inexperienced player, Alex Freeland, gets the ball at third base, sees the batter trying to advance from first to second in this situation, and makes a throw to second base. A bad throw to second base. The throw goes into right field. The go-ahead run comes in. The Dodgers end up losing the game. Okay. It's not the throw that I have a problem with. It's the decision to throw that I have a problem with. There was virtually no chance to record an out right there. I understand you're trying to keep that runner out of scoring position, but one of the rules of this is if we're going to make a throw, let's make a throw that has a chance of resulting in an out. That guy was in there. That guy wasn't going to be thrown out. Even a perfect throw doesn't get him. Even a 10 out of 10 throw does not catch the runner in that situation. And we're making plays that don't have to be made. That's an example of a mental error. Can we take good routes in the outfield? I don't know how many different times we've seen outfielders. Sorry, Michael Conforto. Sorry, Teoscar Hernandez. I'm looking at you a little bit right here. But let's take good routes to balls that are in the outfield. I'm talking about hits that are singles or maybe stretch doubles that are turned into easy doubles because we take a bad angle to the baseball. That's something that I would like to see. We've seen dropped pop-ups in the infield. Miguel Rojas, the most recent victim of that. These are things that should not happen at the major league level. We need to play clean baseball for the Dodgers to start to look like the team that they are, especially, and this will come together when we're coming up here in a little bit, when this is not a team that can cover a bunch of mistakes with big bats. They can cover a bunch of mistakes by scoring 6, 7, 8, 9 runs a night. This is not what they're doing. They are not scoring runs at that level. So little things like throwing to the right base, little things like covering bases on steal attempts become more and more important. That's something that they really have struggled with so far this year. That's number one that I would like to see this weekend. Number two that I would like to see this weekend is, as I mentioned, they are facing some very good pitching this weekend. Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett, and Eric Lauer. These are three guys that are having very good seasons. Toronto is a very good team. This is the sort of team that you're going to see in the postseason. This is the sort of challenge that you're going to face once the regular season ends and you start to play against teams that are not the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies and the Anaheim Angels and all of these other teams that are out there that presumably you're going to be able to get fat on. You're going to have to beat guys like this. Let's see good at-bats. Let's see longer at-bats. Let's hunt certain pitches. Let's make sure that there are productive outs to be made when productive outs are useful. that when it's time to swing from your heels and take big daddy hacks, great, let's do that. But when it's time to maybe hit the ball to the right side, when it's time to maybe put the ball in play, and a strikeout is the one thing that really kind of kills a rally, where a ball put in play keeps things going, let's do that, because those are the things that are the differentiators in the postseason. Little teeny tiny things. Days you score 10 runs, you don't have to do that stuff right. Days you score 3 runs, days you score 4 runs, i.e. playoff games, that's when that stuff matters a great deal. I would love to see that as well. So those are a couple of things that I would love to see, must-haves for the Dodgers. They don't have to win every game, right? Again, this isn't an opportunity, or I should say a challenge to be perfect every single night. This is a challenge to play good baseball in consecutive nights, in a full series, for a full week, because that's how you win playoff games. You're not going to score 10 runs a night in the playoffs. You're going to score 3 or 4 or 5, and you're going to have to make them stand up. You're going to get great pitching from your own team, but those little teeny tiny things need to start happening if the Dodgers are going to be the team that we all want them to be in October and in the postseason. So what has been happening up until this point? Why have we gone from mild frustration into concern? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize, you know what? I'd love to be out there. I want to be in the ballpark. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on those food, that drink, that merch, or even maybe ask a couple of people to come along with you. Gametime makes all of that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app, they go down the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals as well, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I was sitting in my living room the other day, and my son, who's 19, huge Dodger fan, says to his buddy, let's go to the Dodger game tonight and open up the Gametime app. I like that one because all of the pricing is in right there. There's none of those fees that jump up at the last minute. I'm like, I'm proud of you, kid. Way to go. Way to lock in on the Gametime. And of course, Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for any of the games that you might want to see. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON MLB, Locked On MLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Moving forward on Locked On Dodgers, and yes, I do have to concentrate to say Locked On Dodgers because, of course, I host Locked On Rams as well. Make sure you check that out. All your LA sports, we got Locked On Lakers with the Cambros. They do an amazing job. Make sure you check them out as well, but make sure you click and subscribe to get all of your Dodger news, to become it every day, or so you know what we are talking about every single day. We appreciate it a great deal. So let's talk about the mental state of, I think I speak for, doing my radio show every day here in Los Angeles and talking with Dodger fans, talking with, not just Dodger fans, but people in and around the Dodgers that follow baseball closely, that follow the Dodgers very closely. I think that there has been a little bit of a transitioning of emotions over the course of the last, let's call it 2 or 3 weeks. Go back to the beginning of the season. At the beginning of let's even go back a little further than that. Let's go back to the off season. Let's go back to when the Dodgers started doing what they did, which is acquiring good player after good player after good player after good player. They go and they sign Blake Snell. Boom. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, the Dodgers got another one. They go and they sign Tanner Scott, maybe the best reliever on the market at the time. Oh my gosh, the Dodgers got another one. They go and they get Kirby Yates from the Texas Rangers, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they got another one. They add Michael Conforto, and everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, Michael Conforto, he could be this year's Teoscar Hernandez, who really puts the team on his back and adds an element that they did not have before. They already have Ohtani. They already have Freeman. They already have Mookie Betts. They already have Max Muncy and Will Smith. This is the most loaded team we've seen in the offseason. Let's go. Okay, that was the emotion in the offseason. Season starts. Dodgers open up 8-0. Okay, and the conversation is, are they going to win 125 games? Are the Dodgers going to lose a single series? Will the Dodgers lose 3 games in a row at any point during the regular season? Well, yeah, I think we've seen that all of those things have come true. But as this was happening, there were explanations for some of it, right? Mookie Betts is ill. He's lost some weight. He's not quite looking the same, but he'll be back. Freddie Freeman got off to a great start, and then he started to cool. And it's like, oh, he's got a little rib thing. He's got an ankle thing. He's got a shoulder thing. He'll be all right. He'll be fine. He'll be back. Max Muncy is ice cold for the first month and a half of the season. And it's, hey, what's going on there? Michael Conforto is ice cold for the first part of the season. Tommy Edmonds starts like a house of fire and he cools. Teo has really kind of been inconsistent most of the year. But the consensus always seemed to be, the thought process seemed to be, oh, they'll be all right. They'll figure it out. Every single Dodger pitcher not named Yoshinobu Yamamoto is hurt. Right? They're not ready to go. Roki Sasaki gets set down. He goes down to the minor leagues. That none of the guys, Blake Snell throws 9 innings. Tyler Glasnow does what he does, and he goes on the IL. And it's, oh, they'll be okay. They'll be all right. They're going to get these guys back. Blake Trinan's unavailable. Michael Kopech's unavailable. Brusdar Gratterall's unavailable. The entire bullpen that you used to win the World Series a year ago is not healthy. Oh, that's okay. They'll be all right. Everything's fine. They're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to be in the postseason. As long as everything is good by October, it really doesn't matter how you get there. The bats will cover a lot of these problems. It's all good. I believed it too. I believed that was the most likely outcome. I still think that that's probably the most likely outcome. But what's happened in between the 8-0 start and then the kind of soft slide into, I don't want to say mediocrity because they've never really been mediocre, but just below where you think they should be, below where their talent level would lead you to believe where they're going to kind of settle. It never really happened. They've just been okay, and it hasn't been for a week or 2 weeks or even 3. We're talking a couple of months of pretty average baseball. I was talking with Oral Hershiser on my radio show yesterday, and I asked him the question, do I need to recalibrate how I look at this team, that instead of thinking, oh, it will be okay when, and the when could be Muncy gets back, Ohtani gets stretched out, Mookie finds his swing, Michael Conforto figures it out, the bullpen guys come back, all those things. Or is this what this team is? And what this team is right now, as we sit here, in the early part of August, is a team that has really good starting pitching, a very inconsistent offense, and a team that defensively can't seem to get out of their own way for an extended period of time. Is that what they are? Now, you want the good news first? I'll give you the good news first. The good news first is even like this, they're good enough to win the World Series. Even playing like this, they're good enough to beat just about anybody, best out of 5 or best out of 7. That's how good their roster is. That's how many good players they have, that they can, to a degree, afford to make some mistakes here and there, afford to play sloppy here and there, afford to be cold here and there, and still win a bunch of games because Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Ohtani might just pitch that well that it really doesn't matter all that much. That's a lot to ask for those guys. A lot. The bad news is you become vulnerable to just normal things. Before, the Dodgers were not vulnerable to normal things. The vulnerabilities that the Dodgers had coming into the season when they're playing really well is something weird needs to happen for you to beat them four times in 7 games. You're going to have to get above the line performances from the opposition, both on the mound and in the batter's box. And that's really hard to do when you're facing elite pitching. Okay. Now they don't. They just need to be at the line to beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the ones that need to get slightly over the line. And if it were just a bad week or even just a bad month, it would be one of these frustrated kind of situations that, hey, why can't they get it together? Why can't they find a way to play like the way we know that they're capable of? That's kind of morphed for me into a mild concern of, is this what this team is? And I think that's why this Toronto series is as important as it is, because you're going to get a real good look at what you're going to play in October. Obviously they'd only play the Blue Jays in the World Series scenario, but the Padres are really good. The Phillies are really good. The New York Mets are really good. The Milwaukee Brewers are really good. Chicago Cubs are pretty good. That's 5 teams in the National League that, the way the Dodgers are playing right now, they could lose that series. Now, they could win all of those too, but The more likely scenario is if you're going to beat them, you need to start looking like the Dodgers again. You need to take advantage of all of those things that everybody was belly aching about during the offseason about spending too much money, deferring all this money, and stockpiling players that you don't need and the redundancies. Well, let's get back to that a little bit and look like the team that, hey, man, something weird's got to beat, because for the better part of 2 months, and keep in mind, this was supposed to be the part of the year where they took off. This typically when we've seen Dodger teams play, that it is a decent start followed by about 2.5, 3 months of, oh my gosh, they never lose. They have a month where they go, 21-5. They have a month where you go 20-7. And all of a sudden, what was a 2 or a 3 game lead, you turn around, you look, it's a 12 game lead. A 12 game lead, you turn around, you look, it's a 14 game lead. And they just keep stacking games on it. They got it up to when they're playing the Rockies, they're playing the White Sox. They pushed that thing up to about 9 games. They're like, okay, here it comes. And then splat. It hasn't happened since. They got a 2 game lead on the San Diego Padres. It is August. And raise your hand if you thought that was going to be the scenario. I don't see too many hands in the air. They are in a real race with a real team that has real players. And the Dodgers are not playing at the level that I think anybody would expect them to be. And that's concerning. It's not fatal. It's not the end of the world. It's not something that's not overcomable. But this is the first time in a while where you start to wonder, not convinced, but at least wonder, is this just who they're going to be this year? They're going to be the team that sometimes, like they looked in that middle game against St. Louis, unbeatable, or are they going to be like the next day when they played St. Louis, like, man, they can't get out of their own way. They had 2 hits after the 3rd inning. They can't get anything going. They're making errors. Their bullpen guys are coming in. None of them are lockdown guys. Okay, we got a shot. Which of those 2 teams are they? I'm still optimistic that they will figure it out when all of the Pistons are firing in the way that they're supposed to, when all of the guys are healthy and engaged, when Tommy Edman comes back, when Kike Hernandez, cross your fingers, he comes back in the postseason, when all of a sudden you are putting your best foot forward every single night. I'm optimistic, but there is at least the possibility that this is your Dodger team for 2025, which is inconsistent. Good, but inconsistent. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about why the next 2 weeks, even in August, the dog days of August, the next 2 weeks might be exactly the point we look back on and say, that's where it happened in 2025. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. This episode of Locked On Dodgers is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is here, right? They're playing games right now. College football right on its heels. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long, more or less predictions, your picks for the 2025 football season, all in before week 1 kicks off. So whether you're thinking you've got your eye on that big name quarterback, right? You got that guy that you like. Let's talk Josh Allen, right? Do you think that Josh Allen is going to have more or less than 25.5 touchdowns passing this year? Which one do you like? Maybe you're thinking running backs. Go take a look at Saquon Barkley's totals and decide more or less. And preseason picks, they help you get a feel for how the year could go. It's like a warm-up for the full season. So get on Prize Picks and get going on this. And of course, with Prize Picks, you've got the flex play option, complete game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still doubled your money. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we are moving here on Locked On Dodgers. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. As always, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to follow me at Travis Rogers. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow Harry as well. Harry will be back on Monday, and we will break down everything from the Toronto Blue Jays series and get you ready for yet another week of Dodger baseball. So let's talk about why these next couple of weeks are as important as they are. Let's talk about the schedule for a second. Let's go back again. You know how much I like to go back. This is why I got to be an everydayer. You know my moves before I know them. You can defend me like a good basketball player. Let's talk about this. Coming out of the break, the Dodgers had the easiest schedule in Major League Baseball. They were going to play more teams with losing records than anybody else. This was the opportunity to do what we just talked about, which is put some daylight between them and the San Diego Padres. At the time, between them and the San Francisco Giants, between them and maybe the Phillies, the Mets, the Cubs, the Brewers, as far as being the number one seed in the National League, which, you'd rather play at Dodger Stadium than not, even though they've gone kind of cold there. But they haven't taken advantage of it. They have not taken advantage of the schedule that was presented to them, and they have not created daylight. In fact, it has gotten tighter than it's been in a really long time. We're talking low single digits at this point, and this is the part that is concerning, because here's what's coming up. Here's who the Dodgers play over the next couple of weeks. We obviously have Toronto tonight and this weekend, but after that, they play the Angels. Okay, the Angels swept the Dodgers early in the year. The Angels are not a good team, but they're not a terrible team. That being said, it's a team that you should at least win the series from and create a little daylight. It is a soft target. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Series after that, it's against the Padres. Well, these are double games, right? And, you're either going to be a little further or a lot closer after each of these games. These games take on double importance because it's a head-to-head matchup. So you have a soft target before the Padres, then you get the Padres. After that, you get what might be the softest target in the history of Major League Baseball. You have the Colorado Rockies. They're dreadful. We saw what we just saw when they played the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays over a 3-game series beat them 45-6. Let me say that again. They beat them 45-6 in a 3-game series. They scored 45 runs in 3 games. 15 runs per game. Okay, the Blue Jays are very good, but that's how bad the Rockies are. They don't hit, they don't pitch, they don't do anything. This is the ultimate soft target for the Dodgers to create that daylight that we're talking about. Then who do they have after that? They, of course, have the San Diego Padres again. Okay, so you're going to play the Padres twice in the next couple of weeks. And that could be the difference between having a comfortable lead or you are in a tooth and nail, knockdown, drag out, burn up your bullpen, lean on your starting pitching fight through the month of September. That is a huge deal. Not just that, but how about this? Here's who the Padres play over the next couple of weeks. They have the Boston Red Sox this weekend. The Red Sox, not a great team, but not a bad team. So you are a Red Sox fan this weekend because you need them to nick up, ding up, beat the Padres a couple of times if possible. That is a much tougher putt than what the Dodgers have with the Anaheim Angels. The Padres also play the Giants. If the Giants are going to get back into this, they're going to have to start beating teams like the Padres. That's a tough putt for the Padres. They obviously have the Dodgers twice, the way that the Padres have them twice. So that's a tough series for them as well. And they get a second series with San Francisco. So they play the Red Sox, they play the Dodgers twice, and they play the Giants twice. There's no Colorado in there. There's no Anaheim in there. Los Angeles. Yeah, sure. This is a big opportunity for the Dodgers. Hold your own against the Padres. Square it up. Split the series. Be right. Nobody moves anywhere, but take advantage of what's left. Because this is the part where the Dodgers schedule has to be taken advantage of. You have to sweep that Colorado series. You have to take a couple of games from the Angels. This is what good teams do. They clobber lesser opponents. The Dodgers have not done that. Dodgers are 2-4 against the St. Louis Cardinals this year. Cardinals are mediocre on their best day. We saw the Dodgers struggle with the Angels earlier this season. We've seen them look like a team that is just okay for the better part of a few months. They need to fix it, and they need to start to put some distance between themselves and the Padres, because while it wouldn't be a death sentence to not win the division, it wouldn't be a death sentence to have to play in the wild card round. Even if you weren't a wild card team, you'd be the third division winner in that scenario. It is still something that matters. You want to be at home. You want to play fewer games rather than more games. And this is where you can start to create a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of an opportunity. And it starts today against the Toronto Blue Jays. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Dodgers. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Of course, after each and every Dodger game, we got Pete Fox, who is doing our postcast right here on Locked On Dodgers. So make sure you check out all of that. And we will be back on Monday with a brand new Locked On Dodgers. Until then, keep it Dodger Blue, and we will see you on Monday.